Luke. Hi everybody. So just to demystify the role, so solutions architect pretty much means I work at Google to look at our clients' problems and the way they use our tech to make sure that we can make the most out of it, saving them money, and how they can build products on top of that. It's pretty much making money off the product, solutionizing these things. So let's look at the topic of next billion users. Now, earlier today, Luke took us back to 2009 and a bit of context setting. So I'm going to take you back a little bit further, back to 2005. So in 2005, London won the bid for the Olympic Games. There was also the bombings the next day. We had the outbreak of the bird flu pandemic. These two, Prime Minister and President, and also interesting, they were number 2 and 12 for Time People of the Year. The top grossing film was Revenge of the Sith, Darth Vader, and we saw the birth of Darth Vader in this film, and he was, interestingly enough, number 16 in Time's People of the Year. Top song was Mariah Carey with We Belong Together. She wasn't on the list of the top people of the year though. And Africa was only 2% online, right? So with a population just short of 1 billion people, around 900 million, 2% of that was online. To put that in context with Europe, Europe was sitting at 46% with a very similar population. So let's fast forward to today, and we're at a tipping point. We're at a tipping point where 50% of the population is going to go online. And that creeped up 2019. But obviously that's going to be spread between your developed and your developing economies. Developed economies are sitting at 82%. Looking at developing economies, that's only at 40%. And again, there's a wide spectrum of numbers there. To go back to our Africa example, 2% in 2005, that's up to 25% only now. Also pairing that with a steep population growth, they're at 1.2 billion. So comparing that to Europe, which has stayed relatively flat, there's a great opportunity of headroom for growth there. Now, if we look at where this growth can come from, you'll see this is a spread across Asia, or Southeast Asia, Africa, and South America. The large blue circles here are the population size, and the smaller dark blue is sort of the access to internet. So you can see the potential for growth in most of these is more than half of users coming online. But they have very different internet usage than the developed countries. The interaction with devices and specific habits for each country. So most importantly, they're mobile first and largely mobile only. Now, with the bulk of this market coming from Southeast Asia, India, Indonesia, there's staggering figures where 50% of the global mobile users come from Asia. Now, whilst each of these countries can seem slightly different, there's commonalities that we see across these next billion user markets. So one is they prefer voice. So voice usage and search, and this is across search, social, and texting. You get 30% of all searches made in India are used with voice. And we're also dealing with a partially illiterate population as well. So voice plays a big part in here. So the blend of language is quite fluid. You would have uneducated people in English will be basically using Hindi via speech or a Hindi keyboard. Maybe people who are educated in English might use Hinglish with their friends, Hindi with their parents in an English keyboard. And then there'll be also like shifts to localization where they would mix in Punjabi or Urdu, depending on where they live. Now, let's try something. So, okay, Google, play Badrinath Ki Dulhani. So that's another thing, is video content. Video content is huge there, much more popular than text. YouTube is one of the most popular apps in India, and certainly a big usage of their probably limited bandwidth of free data. Next is the demand for localized content. Engagement in local country, the demand for localized content is very high. There's 119 official languages across Africa and Asia, 314 million bilingual Indians. Also Hindi, it's the 4th most widely spoken language in the world, but it's less than 30 from internet content. And interesting about how this informs their purchasing habits. So a lot of purchases are made still within a very small radius to home, rather than similar to us where we buy from depots far away. Now, their engagement with mobile is extremely deep. So if you look at this guy here, this is probably the first computer he's ever owned, which is as powerful as a computer you could buy for £1,000 in 2000. It's the best camera he's ever owned. It's his home entertainment system. You're using YouTube at home to entertain himself. It's his business device, and also it's unprecedented choice, because the loyalty here is not to a brand, but rather to micro moments. But we face challenges here with lower spec phones, connectivity, cost, and the localized content. Now, recently I had the pleasure of seeing Tim Berners-Lee talk, and he was talking about with the World Wide Web Alliance for Affordable Internet, they're looking at making sure that 1 gigabyte of data equates to 2% of your salary. So there's a long way to go there, but that's the benchmark they're trying to set. Some countries fluctuate wildly on that. Now, tying this back to what Google does, if you look at Google's mission statement, which is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. I think the point you want to drive in here is universally. How do we get that content and bring it together? Now, what the 1 billion users, or the next billion users, also means for Google is that we currently have 1 billion users on these 7 products, which are, when they come back, that's Search, Maps, YouTube, Android, Chrome, Play, and Gmail. So it's how do we expand and adapt when these new users come online with very different behaviors. So one thing we've done is making localized content. So you see across Search, YouTube, Android, and Play, we've translated this to a plethora of languages behind it. Also making sure that the content is fast, relevant, and light, to go back to the challenges we had. Here is the Lightbox feature where we're able to type in cricket. You can see you're getting very quick, very light, contextual information that matches the market. Also making sure that this works offline, so that you can download it when you have Wi-Fi, and then you can move outside of the house. And this is using with Maps offline and YouTube. Now, let's look at this in a product. So if we cue this video, so that's Google Maps with a two-wheeler direction mode. And that was launched in India. It's got huge, significant uptake. We're launching it in Indonesia, Southeast Asia, and Nigeria this year. Moving on from that, we've also got YouTube Go, which is built from the ground up with sort of an offline-first mentality, so that it's simple and approachable, and very importantly, it's like a respectable and predictable use of data usage. Also making sure that it surfaces social and relevant content. We then have the Google Assistant, which is fine-tuned for low memory devices. Again, making sure that locality is present in all the searches that happen, and the support of local languages. And then TES, which is an online direct payment where you don't have to actually manage a digital wallet, and it uses machine learning to protect the identity of the users. Now, I want to bring this all together and finish it off with one last video. And I think this sort of brings together the technology as an enabler, as well as the challenge. And I think when these users come online, the benefits it can have to their lives. So, cue the video.
मेरा नाम उर्मिला है, ईपी की रहने वाली हूँ। मेरे 3 बच्चे हैंगे, स्कूल में जाते हैं और बच्चों को होमवर्क नहीं करा सकते हैं, लेकिन चलो मेरे बच्चे होशियार हो गए, थोड़ा सा नेक पढ़ लिख जाते कोई भी पढ़ा लिखा को काम भाव वो नहीं कर सकते हैं। बार बार कहने पड़ती है उन लोगन के कि मतलब थोड़ा सा बता दिए। मुझे पहली बार जैसे बच्चों को मतलब बार बार कविता नहीं आ रही थी, मतलब फोटो लाई।
1 कप सोयाबीन बहियों में 4 कप पानी डालकर उबालें।
तो इसने पढ़ के सुनाया है और जैसे मतलब रिपोर्ट कार्ड आओ बच्चों को
अंग्रेजी, हिंदी, गणित, विज्ञान।
तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि मतलब वो चीज है, मतलब जा चीज है। अब तो मैं खुद के लिए बहुत कुछ काम कर लेंगे।
चालू खाता, बचत खाता।
अब जैसे रेलवे के टिकट कटाना है तो मैं कटा सकती हूँ, किसी के सहारा नहीं लेने पड़ता है। एक तो इसमें बहुत बेहतर है।
I finished that exactly on 10 minutes. That's amazing. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Shall we get back to there? Thank you very much, Ian. That was fascinating and actually inspiring to see how technology in that video example is changing people's lives for the better.
For sure.
Which is fascinating. We've got some good questions coming in. Please put your questions in on Slido, either here or if you're live streaming. One of the first ones that's come in is, how is Google tackling the challenge with the lack of internet infrastructure in some of these areas?
So I do know of a project called Google Station, which is pretty much, it's basically creating Wi-Fi hubs in areas. And I think in Nigeria, there's already 200 launched. Right. And it's pretty much giving pretty much fiber optic Wi-Fi quality into these hubs where people can go and use them. Places like stations will be able to launch them up so people can go into these zones, download the information they need, go offline, and then...
Like the YouTube Go example?
Yes.
So there is a question about YouTube actually, which is the YouTube offline example. Is that the premium product, or in these regions is that a free product? Do you know?
That's interesting. I questioned myself that because I'm not sure. I tried that when I was at home to see what feature it was, and it looked like I needed to go into premium. So whoever asked that question, I'll let you know.
Someone's asked the question about your profile picture. So where were you when you had that photograph taken?
It was a really cool breakfast bar in Bali, and I asked the person to take a picture. The bigger picture is amazing, all this colour and fruit behind it, and the guy behind just totally photobombed.
He did, but it's a great picture. Well, we see, going back to Farah's presentation about conversational AI and conversational ads, apps in ads. Well, we see voice-enabled conversational ads in the next billion user examples where people are actually, people who are perhaps illiterate are actually talking into adverts on their phones.
Well, we have speech to text and text to speech the other way around.
Right.
Technology exists already, and it's contextual, and it's working against different languages. How that's been harnessed for ads yet? I mean, there's probably the innovations there. I think the space is open. I don't think we've reached that point yet.
Right. Well, you mentioned the 2%, Tim Berners-Lee, and the 2% of your income for your internet connectivity. Do you know what the current personal cost of data is?
Well, it fluctuates widely. I mean, I think they've focused on a few, I think like Ecuador, Mexico, there's a certain few countries where they've looked at it and they've worked with governments to get it to that point. But again, some places it goes up to, I think, Ivory Coast, possibly, don't quote me on that. I think it's up like by 40-50%. Right. So it does range quite wildly.
Right. And we're seeing, this is one of my questions, we're seeing Asia move into the 60-70% internet penetration range. I think we saw in some slides earlier and in yours as well. When do you think Africa will get to that level?
Well, you can see, I mean, the growth has been slow from 2005 to now. But I think the investment that's happening in there is clear. I mean, you see it across all the big tech companies, investment in there, investment in the infrastructure for internet, for affordable internet via. So everybody's coming together. It does seem like a focal point. Right. And I think brands and companies would be silly not to focus on the huge opportunities that's there.
Absolutely. Final question. Is there an advertising opportunity with YouTube Download and Go, in your view?
I'm sure there is. I need a whiteboard to figure
that out. Okay, there is one more. Why is voice, in your opinion, why isn't voice used in the UK and in the English language as much as it is elsewhere?
It was weird. My wife was, I presented this last night to my wife, and she's from South America, and she was saying she's been in England for a long time, so she almost seems English, and she gets irritated by her family using the phone to talk on it, because everybody sends messages and they get the ads, and I think it's probably just a cultural thing.
Right.
America is very high on voice search as well, but I think it's probably a cultural thing there.
Very good. All right, there is one last question. You got an amazing pair of trainers. Is this the thing? There was a comment about Damien's trainers earlier. I withheld that one. Ian, thank you very much. Absolute pleasure. Thank you. Cheers.